basis?
Yes, and there are many. Uh, First of all, just to relate to what Ms. Chung said, I think that the basic novel food process is the same everywhere. However, there are cultural differences. There are bureaucratic differences. Very often the products themselves present issues that come up in one place but won't come up in another. However, as a template, certainly I think that Singapore deserves an incredible amount of credit for what they've achieved over the last 3 years of developing a program and actually bringing it to market. This is not a small thing. I think that from regulatory challenges, basic compliance and development of food safety is what every company needs to achieve, and it doesn't matter if you're making gumdrops or making meat. So that any company who achieves that at their basis and goes along with GMPs and PRPs, and everyone in the industry knows about these things. They are the acronyms of regulation and QA. Something like the ISO 2000 program and others like it. They are well on their way to achieving the regulation that we need for a novel food, especially a novel food that is a meat product. Okay? I think that we can move on to the next slide, please. I think a major challenge is that as a novel industry, we're borrowing things, both from regulation and from science and from technology. So that we're taking things from pharma and we're taking things from medical devices and we're borrowing from the plant world of tissue culture. And we have to put these all together as a science and put them into a food matrix or very close to a routine food matrix. And that is difficult. And that is one of the challenges that we are all working on, because none of us wants to be regulated as a pharma company or as a biologics company. We want to be regulated as a food company. Therefore, we have to find the language and find definitions and find methods and materials that make it a food company. And this includes laboratories. It includes examining things analytically in a food matrix language and getting results that will stand up to what happens when regulators look at your work. Okay? Now, media ingredients will continue to be an issue. I think most of you know that most, if not all, companies have or are well on their way to removing the fetal bovine serum from their work. I'm sure that in the developmental or regulatory research stages, they're still using it because it gives a beginning, but it has to leave because it's going to make a lot of problems if it doesn't. Additionally, today one can buy food-grade ingredients, chemicals, but not enough. Okay, you can't get them all. And companies are now working on them. Merck, for instance, I'm not plugging anybody, I'm just giving an example, are working on making these ingredients food grade, or at least doing the processes and risk assessments that are necessary. We have to do that. It's a challenge, but we can't get away without it. We have to then, for that small percentage that we can't make food grade, and probably maybe never will, we have to develop a risk assessment so that we can demonstrate that they are safe. And that brings us to risk analyses, to intake studies, to routine analytical studies. And one of the areas that we're working on is for the actual initial part of the program, which is cells. Okay? We have cells, okay. But how are we growing them? How are we maintaining them? And can demonstrate that those methods and the inputs stand up to the food matrices that we're trying to build. So I think that's a very major thing. So then we get to the crux of it. We all have to present a dossier to a regulatory agency. And for that, we need lots of data, consistent data, high quality data, and for everything, for inputs, for methods, for materials, for processes, and for the final product. Because everywhere the final product says the word, but in this case we know that the scrutiny is going to be incredible, going all the way back to the beginning. So we have to stand up to it, and it takes time. And this is where we come into the pressure on the entrepreneurs and on the bench scientists, because they're just not used to working under those kinds of systems. What? They need that? What do they want? What do they want from us? But they do. And we can count on that. So we have to be prepared for that. It takes a lot of time. It's very detail oriented. It costs a lot of money. And there is no choice. So that's I think a major challenge, because people have to get their heads around it in a new industry. Okay? And last but definitely not least is that we need to establish relationships and common languages with other companies in the industry, with our suppliers, with the regulators themselves. They are all hungry to know what we're doing and how we're doing it, because they want to be able to regulate us properly. And they want the dialogue. So that means we have to be able to talk with them and tell them what we know and what we think, and vice versa. Additionally, one way for our industry to move forward is that we want to harmonize, both as an industry and with the regulatory agencies that govern us in our different jurisdictions. So we're talking about Australia, New Zealand, and Europe, and APAC as a giant area. I think that's a major challenge in APAC, where there are so many up-and-coming agencies and countries with their own cultures, their own languages, and that brings us to the labeling issue again. That it's one thing to be in North America where everything's in English, or in Europe where they're used to harmonizing, than to try to harmonize all of the Asian languages and cultures. It's going to take time. But we all plan on coming together, and I think that will help our industry move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.